Welcome to the Startup Grind.
May now be seated. We joined together. That's awesome.
So just, usually I just want to start, where are you guys from? Are you guys both from the area or did you guys move from here?
I'll go first. Okay. Born and raised Sacramento, from South Sacramento. Have lived in a few other places around California, but always Northern California. And that's where I'm from. So Sacramento roots.
Yeah, I grew up on the backside of American River College, and now I live in Fair Oaks, and I'll never leave. I'm always going to be in this region, unless I'm
Region. So I was looking through your LinkedIn, and I've seen you've got a number of businesses. Do you start any business yourself, Anne?
This is the first one, although I grew up with an entrepreneur mother who owned a retail store for many, many, many years.
Well, for the first one, you're already doing a home run, so that's pretty good.
I'll take it.
And then I was just looking at you've got Rachel, you got 7 businesses or something like that?
Yeah.
And I think one...
Oh, do I get my chip here?
Come next week.
Thanks.
We have a program for that.
Good.
So I think that one about that was interesting with your escape room. Tell me about that.
Sure. So 7 years ago, my husband, my brother's wife, and I started an escape room called Beat the Room. And at the time, I was working a full-time job.
What inspired you to do that, though?
Yeah. So I was working a full-time job at Safe. I was an executive at Safe, and I got some feedback that I needed to calm the fuck down. Too disruptive. I'm messing everything up. And you need to put this energy somewhere else. And I was like, okay, what am I supposed to do? I thought I was doing great. So I decided to distract myself through some sort of business. And long story short, but decided to force everyone to either get on the bus or get the hell out of my way. And luckily those 3 people said yes, and then called Franklin, who's here. Where are you? And Franklin showed us properties, and we opened our doors 6 weeks later.
Wow.
And it was a wild ride, but I put everything I knew about relationship management and getting shit done and contacts that I had built through Leadership Sacramento and opened a business. And the city of Rockland said, yes, here, please.
Why an escape room?
So I had been in Washington, D.C. on the heels of the Cap to Cap trip through the Metro Chamber, and had one of those, we stayed late a couple of days, and had one of those days where it's like, I don't know what we're going to do today. And I was like, let's play this escape room. I heard they're cool. No one knew what they were. And they were like, meh, come on, pay the money, let's go. And
She still does this.
Yeah. My jam. And so I bought tickets. We all went, and it was the coolest thing. So we're in DC where all the history is, right? There's so much cool shit back there. And we sat down for dinner, and we do this thing in our family where we say, well, what was your favorite thing about this? And everyone was like, this monument and this museum. And I was like, that escape room. It was so cool. And they're like, yeah, we came home. And I'm driving home. I call my husband like I do every day. And he's like, did you talk to your brother today? Why? It's like, oh, he found a business journal in Ohio or something where there's this escape room that opened. They made $1 million their first year. And I was like, I gotta go. And he's like, don't do anything crazy. And I'm like, really? You're gonna say that to me right now? But I had already called Franklin, so. And I called my brother, and he's like, I don't know. And I was like, in or out? Are you gonna regret this? It was a long story, and he was like, okay, I'll do it. And we did, and we were profitable from our very first week, and we just sold that business this month. So, wild.
Who designs the escape room?
My dreams designed those places. Yeah, while you're sleeping, weird shit happens. If you can remember it, it's good to write it down. So, yeah.
Any lessons from that whole endeavor?
Don't install hardwood on walls to make a pirate room with your husband. Almost got divorced. That was like a whole thing. Oh shit! Don't ever do that. And put so in your business. One of those things that your lawyer will tell you that we did not use, your lawyer will tell you, put things in place to make sure if anything goes sideways that you're protected. And my brother went through a divorce in the middle of us doing everything. And that was so awful, like so awful for all of us and the work people had put in. Also be super transparent on finances. So my husband and I, we do our finances together. And so when we put money into the business, it was ours. And my brother and his now ex-wife did finances separately. And so that got a little messy on how their ownership was structured versus ours, because we were all supposed to be equal. Anyway, it was a very good lesson to learn. That's for sure. Yeah, among so many other things, like relationships matter. I went with my architect, with my construction guy in for every meeting, even if it was over-the-counter permits, to be like, hi, I'm Rachel. Let me tell you what an escape room is. Let me paint a picture for you. Storytelling was super helpful. The fire department had like 7,000 ideas, and somehow we still were able to open because it was new and scary, right? They're like, you're going to lock people in what? It's okay. Well, I heard in Germany somebody had a saw and they cut off someone. I'm like, no, that's Germany. This is America. So different, I promise. You know, it was very interesting. Yeah.
So how did you two meet?
We met at work in our past life, in our past career, and
Was that was a safe or was something else?
it was at Safe. Yeah,
Okay.
so both in the financial industry, and our paths crossed a few times before we started working directly together. And I love sharing this story because it's like a little rise to Rachel. But at one point I was in my early 20s figuring life out, and, you know, was out of college and listening to my mother-in-law's advice to go be a radiology tech person. And well, it turns out I suck at science and math, and that didn't work out. So I wanted to come back to Safe because it was what was familiar and known. And Rachel had a job opening in the department that I wanted to work in when I came back because it was interesting. And we had a great interview, and she called me and said, I can't hire you, but you should come back anyways. And something told me, you should listen to this crazy lady. Like the intuition pinged me inside. So I came back and found my way months later to work in the department with Rachel. And we grew together. We grew the department together. We grew the organization and its expectations of what could be done together. And then we grew as humans. And it became a very special relationship where our communication is probably really not understood by many people. And I was just thinking about earlier, we call each other work wives, but it really, like, we're in a marriage, and I am also happily married to my husband, but we are in a marriage in many ways. And so that's a long answer to how we know each other, but that's where we are today, and a very condensed version of what our history is.
Yeah.
So how did you decide to like quit your job and start a business? That just seems like a big step.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'll take it first. So I will first say that, and I don't know if you guys are, everyone's different, right? But it takes me a lot to learn whatever the universe is trying to tell me. Like, you know, you're like, God, I keep slamming my head into this bullshit. It's like, oh, well, I'm going to keep doing it and 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 keep doing it. And why not, right? As I'm like taking a shower and shaving my legs and crying every single night. Like, I hate this job now. It wasn't because I was safe. It wasn't because of whatever, but something happened for me that I hated my job. And so as a leader, my team could tell that I was being a shit blocker, right? But I also, like, I have the most real with Anne. Anne's my right arm, like the yin to my yang, the other half of my brain. And it was hard for both of us. And we started in this space of like, what if we did something else? What could we do? And I had this whiteboard wall on the wall in my office, which I'm obsessed with whiteboard walls. And we whiteboarded a number of different businesses. Like, I can see them still. Mm-hmm. Like, we did this really beautiful activity over and over and over again. And we had a couple of great ideas of stuff that we could do, but we just couldn't do it. And it just kept ramming and ramming and ramming. And then finally it was like, I don't care what we do. I don't care what we do. I believe in you. She's like, I believe in you. And I'm like, we're a stock. Let's invest in us, right? Like, this whole like thing. And we had a good conversation about like, what is your minimum financial need? We had to have that, like, what's it going to take? Because you got to build the bridge to go across it. And then we decided that we knew we wanted to do something in government contracting. We weren't quite sure what
Is there a reason why you picked government contracting?
Yes. So, yes.
Sure, we just flipped open the yellow box and it sounded good. There's intention.
Yeah. So my husband had quit his job at Intel after he'd been there for 13 years and gone into government contracting or consulting work. And the weird thing was he made twice as much, but it wasn't as safe, right? As if employment is safe. Let's all quit telling ourselves the lie that employment is safe, by the way. That's a problem that we're all about to experience in this economy right now. He was working with all these other guys who had been doing consulting work for years. I mean, their whole careers, they're consultants, and occasionally they might get a couple weeks or a couple months off. But our conversation was like, well, if you work 6 months out of the year, you're good. There's no change for us financially. And it was like, how does that work, right? How could the economy work that way? Anyway, so I was like, Anne, David, his boyfriends that they're all hanging out with, found this woman who does contract holding in El Dorado Hills, and she has something called a CMAS. And with this CMAS thing, she can hold 50 contracts for up to, I think it was 100,000 or 250,000 per contract. And she charges these guys $10 an hour or 10% of whatever they make, whichever's higher, to run their payroll, because you can't do a direct contract with a human to the state. You have to do it through one of these entities. And I'm like, and if this chick in El Dorado Hills can figure it out, we can figure it out, right? Sure. We can figure that out. And it was a lot to figure out. The barriers to get into government are like, I think there's the wall, right? Like, it's a tall wall. And so we kept learning, and then finally we just had a conversation.
What resources did you go to figure it out?
Yeah, there was one point, I will mess up the organizations, but it was a unified, like, quasi-chamber, public sector, like, affiliated type of workshop or event, and this was pre-pandemic. So this was like summer of 2019 that I attended, and it was really just like the 101 on government contracting, and I just went and took feverish notes. I'm like, I have no idea what all of these acronyms mean, because government loves acronyms. And just took notes and was like, okay, I'm going to go to Google University and I'm going to figure this out. And they're like, okay, yeah, read the RFP. And when they say put the staple on the right corner, you do it. Like, you put 10 copies and, do all the things, right? It's all those nuanced practices. But that and the internet was probably, that's where we went to school on the majority of things. We didn't personally know people that were doing that line of work. It came a little bit later, where, those resources came about, but from like, and then there are government partnership sort of organizations that do help with certifications and that sort of process, but that is laborious and sometimes goes at a glacial pace, and we're pretty fast moving, and like it's hard to sit still with someone that's like, okay, now click the thing button and then this button, and it's like, okay, like how do I get this on like 2 times speed to move through it? But a lot of it was just figuring it out.
Yeah. So you're still working though. You haven't quit your jobs yet. You're still like in research mode, right?
When you say quit our jobs, we only worked for Clutch.
Yeah.
No, but back then.
Okay, gotcha. Yes.
Okay.
Okay, you want to go back in time. So
Yes.
summer 2019, yes. So
While you're researching, you're still at SAFE.
Yes, for a short while. Back to Rachel on how the story continued.
Yeah, so August 2019, we had I don't even remember what the event was, but it was one of those days where it was like, oh, I know what it was. I go to the doctor. I went to my Kaiser doctor, and I went in and I had strep throat for the 6th time in 7 months. And my doctor comes in, and I've known him a long time, like, like anyone feels they know their doctor, I guess, except I'm weird. And he came and he was like, hey, and they took my blood pressure, and my blood pressure was like 210 over 120 something or 140. I mean, it was fucked up, whatever it was. I'd never heard those numbers. I was like, what does this mean? Like, am I going to the hospital? Like, what's happening? And he put his hand on my shoulder, And he said, Rachel, what's going on? And I was like, I don't know. And he said, do you have stress in your life? And I was like, I have a really stressful job. And he goes, I think you need to quit your job.
Doctor's orders.
Kaiser doctor told me to quit my job. That was the doctor prescription to get better. And I was like, and he said, is your boss the problem? And my boss was also one of his patients, by the way. And I was like, no, it's boss is amazing. You know? And he was like, I'll handle it if it is. I was like, no, doc. He's like, hitman for me. I went to the parking lot. I called my husband, and I was like, the doctor said I need to quit my job. He's like, I'm ready. You know, I'm waiting. And I went back into the office and I was like, and she's like, okay. And I was like, I'm going to quit first because I had the escape room and we had rentals we've been compiling and I didn't have, I could do it, right? Like, what was my reason for staying besides I didn't want to leave my team because we had this incredible team of humans that we loved so much. And that was the hardest part. And so I went out ahead, ran, got us like around $200,000-$300,000 in contracts, a place where we could feel comfortable that in that first year, everything was going to be good. When I say contracts, I mean, Ann and I looked at the table and said, what would you do? Yeah. What is the thing you would do if you had to put food on your table, right? Like, what are you willing to do? And we were like, oh my God, events. We've been doing events forever. We're really good at it. We don't want to do them all the time, but we can do it. And we ran out and got these random contracts from amazing people who believed in us.
Mm-hmm. So it was like a cattle. I mean, it was a state government you're talking about?
No, these weren't.
So where are you getting this business from?
The universe literally kept handing it to us. I was at lunch at the Sutter Club and ran into a former president of NABO, and she was like, we need administrative help. Great, we can do that. She's like, okay. And I'm like, we don't have our business license yet. And she was like, okay. And I'm like, can you wait for us? And she was like, yes, I'll wait. It's like, wow. And I was just because I happened to call Roger Neal and wanted to catch up with him, right? And we ran into this woman. And then we just kept getting, we actually, you know, if you've ever done an MLM before, if you're an entrepreneur, you probably have. And they have you make a list of like all the people you know, right? Like put all your friends and family down here. They'll all have a party for you, right? So we like made the party list and we reached out to all of those people and pretty much none of those people said yes. And we were like, fuck.
Like you need event planning.
No, we just said, we are doing business.
Yeah.
How can we serve you? Yeah. Right? Like, you know, we fix problems and that's what we want to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'll add, and just to like, because many people aren't familiar with timeline, so we we legit with the Secretary of State in August of 2019. She left in September 2019. And one of the other things that we did do and we talked about, and this was like the heartfelt like floor conversation where it was like, okay, like we can, when we're together, we can pretty much figure things out. We can not do whatever, but we can do a lot of things, and we haven't pinpointed it at that moment. But what we do want to do is somehow make an impact on people's well-being.
Yes.
And we weren't ever going to go into social work or be psychologists or doctors or anything like that, but like mental health is incredibly important to us from our own lived experiences, from having a family member die by suicide, and just knowing that at the end of the day, like, we're humans, we're people, and people need to be okay and need to know that it's okay to not be okay, and that there are resources out there, and that work doesn't have to be a separate place where you put a mask on and pretend like you're not okay.
So was this more like a culture statement or is this like a mission statement?
Both.
Yeah. Yeah. And as a result of that, we decided to do what we do best and produce an event, and it's still running, and we went crazy in the pandemic and did multiple iterations of it, but we run the Bold Speaker Series, which is a women's empowerment speaker series for Women Take the Stage. It's now an annual event, and it was we call it our hard work, and it is our way to engage the community to have vulnerable conversations. Yes. And it was the first thing that we produced and birthed out of Clutch. And, you know, there's some pride in that because it's now a legacy piece for us. We feel good about having been able to create something when we were still figuring it out ourselves. And we're not just a one-hit wonder. Bold isn't all that we do. Clutch is so much more than that. But it gave us, I don't know, like, it was cathartic. It was beautiful. It was community building, and gave us an opportunity to continue to explore what else we were going to do.
Did you think about, it sounded like, I think I read somewhere it was like sold out, right?
Yeah.
Did you think about just making that your main business?
We did at one point. I mean, right, we all have, if you have an entrepreneur brain, it never stops running, right? So it's like, oh, we could do that, and we could do that, and it could be this, and it could be that, and Oprah will call us, and it'll be great. Like, it's just this cycle. Always Oprah, right? Fucking Oprah's amazing. That's like that you made it, right? I don't know. But it just, it wasn't going to be enough. Right? Bold is awesome, but we really wanted to impact more people because a lot of people are working in toxic work environments or places where they're not mentally safe, emotionally safe. So we wanted to create a business that would treat people the way they might want to be treated.
Okay. So what was that? What was after the Bold series? What was the next thing?
So Bold was in fall of 2019, so we decided we were going to do it, and 6 weeks later we did it. She locked me in a room. Kind of. This is not a safety
You can
crime.
escape.
And, Rachel ran out ahead and was building that portfolio and the opportunities, and it became my time, and my husband agreed that it was my time to move on also, so we were in consensus with that.
How far apart was that from when you left?
Yeah, so she left in September
17th.
And my last day was February 28th, 2020. Yeah, it was going to be like a really great opportunity to spend more time with my family. It was just like, the world was just going to shut down for 2 weeks, and it was going to be like totally fine. And we all know what happened. Yeah. And there weren't in-person events, and all of the contracts we had were canceled.
85% overnight.
And to be honest, it was like I feel emotional, which I don't think I usually feel this way, but like just reflecting, like, it's in those times of like maybe struggle or challenge where you're like, what the fuck? I just quit my job. What's going on? Like, who could have ever predicted this? That it was like one of the happiest times of building this business because it was so exciting and reinvigorating because it's like, we're going to figure it out.
All right. So this is, normally I ask a question of what was your near-death experience? This sounds like the near-death experience.
We never felt like
slow
that.
death.
Yeah. No,
There's no one moment.
So the thing that's really beautiful about Anne is I actually have a catastrophic thinking disorder. So I learned this. I don't know if anyone knows what a catastrophic thinking disorder. It means that everyone's going to die all the time, right? Like everything that could go wrong is always going to go wrong. So my brain does constant, people who want to put it in a positive light say risk management. I do consistent risk management at all points of time in my life, whether I'm awake or asleep or whatever. I'm always managing risk. And Anne has this, Anne is my Yoda. Like Anne finds this space and she's like, we're going to be okay. And I'm like, we're going to be okay. Like, it just takes her to tell me we're going to be okay. No one else. Everyone else can be like, Rach, it's great. And I'm like, like, we're going to be okay. If Anne believes it, I believe it. So it's this really beautiful thing. She was like, we're going to be okay. We'll reinvent or whatever. And we would say, all the entrepreneurs that they make it in hard times. So this is our hard time. We're going to do this. And we just kept pivoting.
Yeah.
So how did you survive the pandemic? What was the next move?
Yeah.
We worked 100 hours a week.
Yeah. So we got our foot in the door by starting doing client services on government contract work so we could get the experience ourselves. So we could have that lived experience.
So what does that mean? Is there like a catalog or did they have
No, there's not a catalog. She knew a person.
Yeah, I knew a guy. Yeah. Yeah, we got really lucky and these things matter, right? Like this is where luck comes in, and it's the very few times I will use luck because I think luck is a bullshit word otherwise. We were lucky in that we held still, and when you think about who you know and who they know and who they know and whatever, like if you hold still, it's like, oh, wait, come on. I mean, and now looking at it, we live in a freaking government town. When you want to do state contract work, where's the best place in California to possibly find someone who might know a little bit about that, right? Like we were literally sitting in it and didn't see it. And so Anne had actually been, had a good friend who worked for the state, like a very good friend who introduced us to this guy who worked at a consulting company. She's like, this is my favorite contractor. He'll take you to coffee, right? And so we are like these two, this was March 16th, the day before, you know, the world said, we're closed and you won't see humans anymore. We're at this coffee shop at Temple Coffee and we're like, so how does it work? And he's like, oh God, too big of a conversation. We're like, well, what do you do? And he's like, oh God, this, you know, and it's like, give us,
I'll take it.
you know? He's like, well, girls, basically what I can tell you is that in emergency contract space, it's the whole wild, wild west. You just got to get in there. And so what we took away from that was get in there, right? Get in there. Okay, point taken. And then there was a guy who was actually saw what we were starting. And now that I look back on it, he was trying to get a piece of our business in one of those kind of predatory ways. At the time, I did not see it at all. At the time, I was like, this guy's so nice. And now I'm like, oh shit, that was like a whole thing I didn't see coming. But he called and said, this was the day after I decided I was going to be a grocery store bagger to go back to doing two things at once. But he called and said that they had some work that CDPH was spinning up a public-facing call center for COVID-19 information. And I was like, I know call centers. I ran call centers for years, you know, and he's like, okay. And I made it clear to him that I would like, we do these things together, right? Like, let's get going. We'll do these things together. So I hopped on and then, and so I was doing stuff with CDPH, that's California Department of Public Health, and hopped on with DHCS.
Department of Healthcare Services.
Thank you. Hate acronyms. I took their contract they had at CDPH because I got to get in the room where it happens, right? Like I was virtually there, but I pushed and every time I was uncomfortable or I had imposter syndrome, it was like, you know what you're doing, just do it, just do you. And it'll take them a little bit, but they'll figure out that you know what you're doing. And I grew that contract for them from $150,000 to $30 million. And it ended up being 100 and something, like the guy decided that I was like this crazy muse or something. And that's when I figured out that maybe things weren't right there.
So
right?
you were doing that not for Clutch, but for this other company.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. And so what we had figured out is, okay, as we grew the contract, they actually weren't prepared for growth. We were prepared for growth. We were okay with it. We were comfortable being uncomfortable and taking risks. Like we're very comfortable in that space. So he had the connection to this like historical stuff he'd been doing, and we had people that we knew did good work that wanted to do stuff. So we found a way to almost be like a long-term staffing company for them, and would put our people there, and they would basically like pay us something because FEMA contracts wouldn't allow us to put our own people on the contract, which sucked because we really wanted to. We couldn't sub, right? So we found like a little sidestep around that. And then
So you're providing employees for this, it's like subcontractors for this other contractor company, which was subbing to the government.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and there are so many companies that work with the government. Like then we started meeting people because in pandemic, they made everyone work together, which was beautiful. And we didn't know any better. And that's what we do anyway is connection. So we're like, cool, this is totally normal. And they were like, this is weird, you know? And we were like, hey, I remember there was a day where we'd been sitting in these meetings and there's this contractor that we could tell wasn't performing, right? Like you've all been in a meeting where you're like, they're asking questions and this guy is sucking at answering them. And I was like, he's being like, weird about it though. Like he's kind of trying to tap dance. Like it was almost like he had something, but he didn't have it all the way there. And I was like, Anne, I think they need people because they didn't have enough bodies to do this work with the immunization branch. And she's like, maybe they do. You should call them. And I was like, I should call them. So I called this guy and I'm like, hey, if I'm overstepping, like, I'm sorry, but I feel like you need people. And he was like, I do. I'm like, how many people do you need? And he's like 100. And I was like, cool. When do you need them by? And he said, I don't know, like yesterday. And I said, would Friday work? And this was Monday. And he was like, yes. And I said, okay, what kind of people, And he was like, I literally just need people who are breathing. And I was like, oh yeah, we could do that. And so he was like, okay. And we worked out a verbal handshake deal, which then went down another one of those weird paths where, what they verbally said didn't turn out to be what it was. And we were already moving at the speed of light. And it was the people who mattered more to us than anything, because now we're telling people they're going to have jobs. And so we kind of got the shit into that stick, and we hired 100 people in a week. And then,
Okay.
yeah.
How did you find 100 people?
Through network,
Yeah.
right? Just saying this is what we're doing. Well, in fairness, let's be real about this. Ann and I have spent over a decade building our personal brands, right? Over a decade in the community, being the women who do what they say they're going to do, being the women that don't overcommit and don't overpromise, like just like anyone else in business, where you're like, I love this person. They always do what they're saying. That's us, right? Like that was us. So when we went to our networks and said, we're going to hire, we're just mass hiring thing, we got some really beautiful reshare that came with an endorsement.
Yeah.
I know these women, I trust them, go hang out with them. And we got a lot of applications, and it was easy.
You coach a lot of people out of safe?
Not at that point in time. Not at that point in time.
The answer is no to that.
Yeah. None of those people actually came from safe.
Yeah. And you said it was easy, and sure, like 100 people with ease and flow, yes, but like also like one of those near-death experiences where you're like, holy shit, onboarding 100 people when you're like a 6-person firm is a big deal.
Yeah.
And everyone's a recruiter and works in HR for the next week.
Yeah.
Like, even though that's not what you signed up for when you joined the Merry Band.
Yeah.
So you got 100 people by Friday then?
100 people by Friday, and then they asked us for 10 more and 10 more and 10 more. We got up to 140 people with them. And then 6 weeks later, they figured out that the system they asked these people to work on had a capacity limit of 100 users at any given time. And they had people too.
Yeah.
So then they called us and said, you have to fire 80 people, no, 100 people.
Oh, crap.
Yeah, that was cool.
And so what happened? Oh, did you just, or were you able to find a job somewhere else?
We did not have 100 jobs for someone else at that point in time. No, we had a lot of very honest, very transparent conversations. And the other company was, this company, I'm not even going to say who they are because we're not into brand tarnishing, but the way they went about this is they didn't tell us that that's what was wrong. They told us that there was a performance issue with 100 people. And I was like, you don't really have a performance issue with 100 people. They're like, well, look, here's what's happening. And I was like, okay. So we're going to do that. We're going to have this conversation around how employers and employees protect themselves in the state of California, and what you're doing is fucking wrong. So here's what you can legally say, and here's what you can't. And this is going to go in place for both of us. Don't ever do this again. Right. And I knew someone who on the inside knew what actually happened, who told us. So our team knew what actually happened. And also, it's the state of California in a pandemic, so if any one of those people wanted to call, I don't know, any news outlet, they could have, and said, the state is so stupid that they hired these, it's not the state, it would have been the consulting company, but that would have been press on the state, because one of the things that we care about, and I think why we do well, is because whoever we're working for, their brand is our brand. So we want to protect them from any of the negative shit that could come up. And in any time of crisis, the wow bam of like, let's talk about all the terrible things that come in the news get hit really hard, especially with the state. So everybody's stupid. That's what it is. Seriously, like, look what they did. They didn't know how to do anything, and everything was happening fast, and they made an error. No faith and trust. It's like, come on. They made a really big mistake. They didn't own it. They learned something from us on that. Like, we believe in owning your mistakes. Like, just, yeah, I screwed up. I'm really sorry. But we were able to rehire a large volume of those people into other projects, which was great, and people appreciated it. And in the short time they were with us, we got to share a little bit of our culture with them. And it was beautiful. That part was beautiful.
Yeah.
So when you onboarded people, because I remember you talking about the Leadership Sacramento thing.
Yeah.
You were talking about culture, like you had, it was like your mission statement. It's like the Jerry Maguire moment for you. So is that something you impressed on to all your, this is what we're about? And I'm assuming that was well received then.
Yeah, I mean, the comments, and still as recent as today, that we hear from our staff is like, it's a real place to work. I can show up as who I am. Like, I feel honored and seen for my gifts. And if I don't know what's going on, I can ask a question. Like, it's a safe space to just be.
Yeah.
And that, it's not just fluff and words, that it's a feeling of being seen and being authentic. And at the end of the day, like, that's what we're after. People can choose to work anywhere, but who doesn't want to feel good when they're at work and they're surrounded by people like that? So because we have grown so quickly, and I don't know if I'm skipping ahead on questions, but we're almost a 200-person organization that are fully benefited, employed employees of Clutch, that we grew extremely fast last year and took an intentional pause to reevaluate and look at what the experience is from before people even start at our organization. What does the onboarding experience look like? How are we talking to people? How are we communicating with people? What are the interactions that they have? And how do we continue to do a good job of that? Because it's different when you're 6 people and you can all get together in a room and talk and have a merry old time versus a 200-person organization. That experience changes, but the culture isn't going to change. And that's like who we are. That's how Clutch is. That's when we hired our early team of people that they were extensions of that. And it's not Rachel and Ann's organization. It's Clutch's culture in our organization. And we talk about it all the time. I mean, we start a lot of our meetings around like having a values discussion, that we talk about and live that we are a values-based organization, and expect our leaders to come to meetings with examples of those interactions and situations that they're dealing with. So it remains front and center that we are connected, we are optimistic, and we are driven. And our favorite part about not working in banking anymore is that our like unofficial tagline is "we get shit done," and you can say that. And we actually wanted to call our company that, but we thought it'd be a bad idea as a government consulting firm. Maybe the state would like it. I don't know. But it's true, and we live it, and it's part of our practice. And we could have kept going after sales, and we could have grown to be 400 people last year, but we took an intentional pause because the culture matters so much, and we didn't want to tarnish or diminish the experience for our employees as we grow.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good. Oh, who matters what's dying?
Holding.
What kind of plug?
Oh. The universe is saying something.
I've recorded like 90% of it, so you can just.
Oh my gosh, Sarah.
Don't worry about it. Gotcha. Gotcha.
I love it.
Well, this is for prosperity. Okay, so, we have, correct me if I'm wrong, when I'm trying to figure out how to describe what Clutch does, I would say you're a staffing agency for the government. How close is that?
Kind of close.
Yeah.
Do you know how many internal conversations we've had around our communications and marketing? Because what Clutch does means something different to the clients we serve and to every person. So, I mean, we aren't selling ice to Eskimos. Clutch could if we wanted to, but we do provide professional talent in the form of contracting services. They're our employees. They don't belong to the state, but we immerse ourselves in that way. But we dabbled in recruiting, but that's not the bread and butter, so we're not recruiting for the state. So we immerse ourselves and come side by side doing professional business services. So business process improvement, project management, event management, communications and marketing. So those are our domain service areas if you want to get into the nuts and bolts of it. But I mean, we're a Deloitte, we're an Accenture, you can think of us in that way.
Okay, so you're really, because you're employed, I mean, when I think of staffing agency, it's sort of like you're finding anybody to fill a spot. These are your employees then.
Correct.
So are they working on, are they typically with one agency or are they working on multiple projects? Like multiple agencies?
Yeah, typically.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, typically they're a full-time employee of ours that is supporting work in whatever agency in that space.
Okay, question about, so you have your values.
Yep.
Can you talk maybe in specific examples where maybe a situation happened where something, there's something where that's conflicting with your values and you actually had to either walk away or, something, had to, cut it off or, can you, I think that'd be a good illustrate.
Yeah, which, I mean, that company that we did the hire and then fire with, we said no more work with them, right? Like what we don't want to do is the people who are there, it's their choice to stay there. So if they want to be there, then great, but that means no, we won't do new work with them, even though we could, right? They would keep sending us stuff. And we're literally looking a gift horse in the mouth to be like, cool, no, right? Like that's just not in alignment. There was another organization that we were subcontracting with that was not treating our employees well. And there's a difference. So there's a line. We've actually learned, and I know other people probably knew this, but maybe I just didn't know this, but there's a difference between, and I've now had to verbalize it a few times. There's a difference between this person has bad tone. This person's having a bad day. This situation is difficult to deal with. This project is hard. This is a startup, something that no one's done before. And someone is bullying me. Someone is racist. Someone is toxic. Like those are different things. And we're not going to just get projects that are just rainbows and butterflies. Like that's not the real world. But we get to go into business places and be a rainbow or be a butterfly. And a lot of times when you are that, it raises the energy of that whole space. Not everyone, right? But if we can raise the vibration of that space or the energy in that space a little bit, then great. If we rub off on the people that we're around, great. This last week I was sitting with Barry Broom, and he was like, I don't get it. And I was like, Barry, you could clean toilets and be happy at work. It doesn't matter what you do. It matters how you do it. And it matters that we create a space where employee engagement is, what do you need? What do you want? How do you think you should do this? Because you can reinvent the world. I mean, now I'll get on my soapbox for 1 second. Ann and I giggle all the time because it's like, we can't turn our brains off. We're like efficiency machines, right? You are all efficiency machines. That's why we build our businesses. And so when you look at something like this is broken, it's broken more than just there. It's broken all over the place, right? Getting into the building today, this door wasn't unlocked, but this door was when we got here, right? It's like, well, process might want to do this differently. It's a small, tiny thing, but it would make it easier, right? It might be like a small thing. And those small things, when a person has let's say you start your day with an energy of neutral, right? I don't know what I'm going to wear today. I don't know where I'm going to go. These pants are comfortable. And then whatever, maybe you put a pair on and there's a tear and then you're like, oh, and it goes wrong. And then you get in the car and it's low on gas or power if you have electric. And then you can take a deep breath and then you can go on because life keeps going. But if we can create these pauses where you can be authentically yourself and no one's going to be like, oh, you're too much, right? Or get out of here, or work isn't the appropriate place. Work is exactly the place to have a moment so that you can move on. It never stops. We don't stop being human. It's just this little piece of make it a little bit better.
Yeah.
And that conversation around, are these bad people or bad situations or bad work environments? you got, like, we're getting to the bottom of that. And so there are clients that we've decided are not a good fit because of their culture. And look, like, we're doing a lot of government contracting work. Shit's not easy at the state of California. We have 40 million people in California. The systems that they've had to use over the years and how much scrutiny goes into where dollars get spent doesn't mean that we are like rock on best IT in the world in the state of California. So you have people who want to be efficient who are working in DOS-based systems. Like, no one wants to do that. It's 2020 something, like, so you already have to overcome that. And that sucks, right? Like, but if you can, then you can actually do good work because the shit they do at the state or in our community, public, private, doesn't matter, is cool. We're working on reproductive health. I don't care how you feel about reproductive health. We're doing something in it, right? We're working in mental health. We're working to support health equity quartiles 1 and 2, which I give much shits about health equity quartile 1. And then I learned about it and I was like, oh, shit, that's human stuff. That's not, I've had this whole epiphany around like situations that happen to people as opposed to people just being a people, right? In the pandemic where, I mean, there were people that came to get help that hadn't been back to ask anything of the state of California or believed that government could help them in any way in years or decades. Because now all of a sudden, in order to breathe right, I had to say I didn't have COVID. So we got to check in with humans, and the stories and the stuff that was pouring in changed my whole life. Like, damn, there's a lot of work to do here. Anyway, now I'm totally off on a tangent, but we try and amplify that.
So, when you're recruiting, like, what's your process? It seems like you have to recruit a lot of people.
Not anymore.
Oh,
Our last job we posted for a call center position, we had 3,000 applications.
really?
That's a big deal.
But not just like over like the weeks that the job was open, it was in like 2 days or 24 hours?
24 hours. You had to turn it off.
Yeah. I actually told Rachel she was wrong. I was just like, oh, you read the number wrong. And she's like, no.
No, I did it.
Yeah.
So is that because the economy is tanking, or is it because you guys are so awesome?
That's a great question.
Let's just kick it off. Exactly.
I'll let the people be Taryn's answer. I support Taryn's answer. It's probably everything.
Yeah.
Right? Everything's a mix of everything.
So I guess, is there a way, because you have your values, so is there a way when you're recruiting people that you sort of check for those values, or how do you go about that?
Yeah, we have a talent acquisition team and they just have a human conversation. For people that we haven't even hired, we have gotten thank you notes for the experience that they have talking to our recruiting team.
Yep.
Wow.
And for the layoffs too, that
Yes.
we've had to do so far.
Like, I don't mean to laugh, but people have said like they're losing their job and they tell us thank you.
Yeah.
Wow.
There's something in that, right? Like, and okay, so to the entrepreneurs in the office, one of the scariest things I think about being an employer of other people is now you're responsible for other people's lives and their ability to put food on their table and that's a lot of pressure. So we had this like really beautiful conversation with one of our employees who was like, this is so cool. And she said,
She's one of our very first employees we hired.
yes. And she said, this is so cool that if for whatever reason, if this ever falls apart, I'll just be grateful for the time that we've spent here. And I said, do you really mean that? And she was like, no, I mean it. Like, and she authentically meant it. And I was like, thank you. That's so freeing, because part of what limits you is what you're willing to take on. And it feels like a lot around 200 people. There's a reason we took a pause, because we said, hang on, we need a minute. We need a beat to make sure that all of this is going to be okay for all of these people that are now part of our stuff, and so we needed to do that. And these kinds of conversations allow us to go, okay, now maybe we can go 3. Maybe we can go 4. We want to someday get to 1,000, but that's a someday. Like, now we're talking about this year. Like, all right, if people, when they authentically show up as themselves and this is that good for them, then let's just keep going. And the universe will keep doing what it's supposed to do.
It seems like you guys have been around for 10 years, was it? Or even though
Together, 13, I think.
What's our anniversary date?
You're a work wife. You should probably know that.
So like, yeah, and it's almost like, I feel like you're almost like, Vulcans. You're doing this Vulcan mind meld, like you're communicating to telepath.
I love how nerdy you are. Me too. I love it. I'm into this.
You're an engineer.
I love it.
So like, but do you have like, what happens, you guys, what happens when you guys disagree on something? What's your way to resolve it?
Open, transparent conversation and literally calling each other up and being like, hey, I am not okay with this and this is bothering me and I can't let it go and here's why, or I need to cry right now or whatever. We don't ever scream or yell. That's not really a thing.
Nope.
We talk things out. Like, I remember talking early on about our partnership and Rachel always mentioning, like there are co-founders that like have to go to therapy together. Like we've got this, like we can figure this out.
Yeah.
But it's also like those moments don't come up often. And if one of us feels passionate about it, we speak up. But because there is a profound amount of trust in each other.
And curiosity. Right? Like that's the other important piece. If Anne comes to me and says like, this hurt my feelings, I will say, tell me more about that or why, or what could I do differently? And she does the same for me, right? Because then if you always feel seen, you trust that the other person's not trying to hurt you or go behind you or not hold the integrity of whatever. And we also get a lot of time together.
Yeah.
Yeah. We take retreats, just us. Like you would have a date night in your marriage. We got date retreats,
Yeah.
We go to Bodega Bay and hang out. It's super fun.
You know what you told me earlier today was you guys read books together.
This is new.
Yep.
This is new. I don't know how many books Rachel's read, but
And well, okay. So Anne is an avid reader. I'm not. Like I get bored really easily. And the first few chapters of any book, I'm like, this is so annoying. Like I can't do it anymore. But I do like good book recommendations because it means someone else curated something. They're like, this is worth your time. And Anne does that for the planet. Like she's really great at that. In fact, I asked her to make a whole bunch of podcast things for me. Anyway, long story. So this time there's a mentor who's been awesome that was like, you guys got to read this book or you got to read this book. And I was like, Anne, he said we should read this book. And she was like, I'm going to read this book. And I was like, oh shit, you're actually going to do it? Then I got to do it. I don't want to look bad. And so she starts reading it. And she's like, oh, this chapter's good. I'm like, oh no, I really have to start reading it. Right. And I play catch up. But what I learned from that experience is when we read them together, then we have really, it's like taking a college class together or a something. So it creates good sparks of whatever. Anne is always bringing me, she's like my content curator. Like she's my LinkedIn feed. She brings me good stuff all the time. And then we talk about it, but it's different when we're both immersing. Thank you. Immersing ourselves in it and then talking about it. Yeah, it's really beautiful.
All right, I'm going to go to audience questions, but I'm going to do rapid fire.
Okay.
So you guys just blurt it out. Most promising tech you've seen right now?
Say it again.
Most promising tech?
I hate tech.
All right.
We suck at tech. We like people.
We suck at tech.
Favorite TV show?
Something vampire related, I'm sure, for me.
Like of all time?
So
My husband and I got really deep into Lost, but like 10 years after.
Yeah, a long time ago.
Yeah, I know.
All right. Best investment? Well, I guess that's best investment.
Ourselves.
Yeah.
Ourselves. That's good.
Yeah.
Favorite type of music?
Oh, Beach Boys?
Really?
I like it all.
Yeah, pop country.
Okay. What actress would you want to play you in your movie?
Oh.
Julia Roberts. Please. That'd be so cool.
I'll go with Kristen Bell.
Favorite superhero?
Ooh. My grandfather.
Okay.
I'm terrible. I don't know any Marvel movies or anything, so I'm just gonna go with the Green Goblin because that was in a story I read to my daughter this week.
Okay.
Giggle gas or something.
iPhone or Android?
iPhone. Well, yeah. I'm stuck.
Favorite sports team?
Sports ball.
Sports ball?
I don't know. I don't have a team.
We don't watch sports.
Soccer teams. Like soccer.
Getting up early or staying late?
Early.
Late. Hate early.
Favorite vacation spot?
Jamaica.
Yosemite.
Best way for someone to get your attention?
Say my name. Touch me and say my name because otherwise I won't pay attention.
That's like a little
Rachel.
filter. Yeah.
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 There's rules against that too. So.
Not my bubble.
Intellect.
Okay. Favorite movie?
I know the name of this movie, but they say talking about love is like dancing about architecture. I don't know the name of it.
Anybody?
Love Actually.
Is that it? No.
That's bad. We don't watch movies together.
Right.
My guilty pleasure, Anchorman.
Okay.
Yeah.
What advice would you give to your 18-year-old self?
Trust your intuition.
Find your tribe.
On your time. Who inspires you?
My children.
Oh, that's good.
Oh, you guys aren't going to like my answer. Well, it is Elon Musk. Yeah.
Favorite food?
Sushi.
Sushi, but also like a bombless cheeseburger.
If it's pizza, we have lots of it.
Close second.
And what advice would you give to entrepreneurs?
Fail faster.
Not like that. Feel fast.
Same thing I would say to my 18-year-old self, trust your intuition. Your gut is usually not wrong.
Okay. So now I'm going to leave it open to the audience for questions. Russ?
So is it all public sector and government, the clients, or now you broaden beyond that?
85-15 split currently. Yeah. Yeah. You in charge of this? Yeah.
So I hear you taking care of your employees quite well and often. Who takes care of you? Where do you two go?
We have an amazing executive assistant. Our families, each
Yeah.
other. We check in
My
with each
husband.
other. And we've really worked to seek community with other business owners too. Especially in the pandemic and the amount of stress and growth that we went through. Not only was it felt really isolating, and that could have been our own fault, but it was. And when you're pouring and pouring and pouring into your business and other people, you get depleted, and sometimes you hit the wall. And I found the wall last fall and have really focused on my own health, spiritual journey, mental and physical well-being.
I found the wall a long time ago. I'm just experimenting with how far I can go. Keep pushing.
And therapy.
Therapy's beautiful.
Yeah.
Oh, we should say we found these beautiful coaches. The company is called Authentic CEO, and they do what's it called? Quantum physics. Yes.
Coaching.
And it's changed my life. It's changed Anne's life. It's changed the way we do business.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Quantum
Is
physics.
that Amanda?
Yes.
It's Amanda, right?
Yes. Yeah. Yep. Amanda and Amy.
How is your role changing in the business as you're scaling?
Great question.
Good question.
Yeah, dynamically. Yeah, because you go from doing everything, wearing every hat, because you have to, you want to as you build and scale, and was also in client services. So building the business, running the business, doing the client service work, and then could peel back a few things as we hired team members on. And just more recently, I mean, just as recent as this past summer, was I able to come off the client service work. And then we have always operated as co-founders. There's legal titles, whatever, that we just don't care about in that way, meaning like that's not what we signed up for. We signed up to be in partnership, but decided how we wanted to formalize things in a new way. And that has shifted tremendously. And we have a full C team and executive team. And so we've basically outsourced a lot of the work that we were doing ourselves. So it changes a lot. And I will just say, like, I'm on a personal journey to figure out what that all means, because I'm not needed in the same way. So where am I going to spend my energy? Because I don't want to spin in a void. And I don't have the answer.
And for me, I feel like I've settled into my dream. Yeah. So it's we are on this incredible journey together and holding space for one another. And I think it's awesome.
It seems like the premise of your company is like oppositional to this rate at which you've scaled. Like, how do you drive that culture that quickly? I mean, I don't know the logistics of it, like where you're working remote, and that's a whole nother sort of aspect to this is if they're remote. How are you, I mean, that's the big question for all workplace, all employers these days, right? Is how do you maintain that workplace culture or establish it when you're growing so quickly and workers are remote?
So so who you cultivate matters.
Yeah.
Right. So for us, that small team, when we brought them in, were all people that we had worked with before, that we know and trust. And by know and trust means that we know that they have similar insides, right? Like that they want to show up, that they would be beautiful extensions of what we're trying to do. And then as we added that next 50 people, they're almost all people that we knew, people that we'd worked with before. So like you kind of made the joke about Safe Credit Union. Our first new version of us was all these people that we had worked with before that were like, come with, I want to go. I want to go with you. I want to go with you, and we were like, hold on, we're trying to make a spot for you.
Yeah.
Because we really did some beautiful work in that place, some really, really beautiful work that I am super proud of. We learned a lot and we built a lot of great relationships. Before we ever got here, I chaired Metro Edge for a year and chaired Metro Edge for a year, which is the largest group for young professionals in the region. So we had a lot of high touch. We both went to Sac State. I went to American River College. Like the regionalism part of knowing these people is extensive, and then the people that they know is extensive. So until about July or August of last year, we really had kind of put ourselves in this beautiful, like, everyone can detoxify from the bad workplaces stuff together. And now we're inviting new people into that space. And that's actually shocking for them and for us because we're so different, right? And now the like weird thing that keeps coming up is people are like, is this a cult? I'm like, oh shit, no. Why is that a thing you think?
Cults do harm.
Yeah, we don't do that. So it's just different. Yeah.
Trust?
Sorry, one more question.
Yeah.
So navigating the government contracting process is a nightmare.
Yes.
And so you made a comment earlier that caught my attention, which is your staff augment a subcontract to another person that's already navigated that.
Yes.
Is that something I never thought of before? Would you recommend that for somebody who doesn't know the ins and outs of the government contracting bureaucracy?
Yes, and with a whole lot of ands.
Yeah.
To protect yourself because
I'm more stirs pers, so that's my world. But,
yeah.
But I'm like, even the stirs pers world by itself is thousands and thousands of pages.
Oh yeah, and I will say there's not a lot of money in it, but it's a beautiful. I mean, growth is not always linear, right? So there's that space of like, where can I go to school on this and have it be fast learning? The subcontract agreement is something really important to have in place.
Yeah.
For a couple of ours, we didn't have one. And then we felt so blessed and so special because Accenture wanted to subcontract with us. And what Accenture said to us was, look, we don't need you because of your WOSB cert or your small biz cert or any of these things. We want your people.
Yeah.
And that felt really good, but also really scary. Because I don't know that we're ready to get in bed with Accenture, right?
Yeah,
like
that's director at Accenture.
yeah, scary. But
yeah,
yeah, right. There's a step in there. And it's interesting because I think one of our, because you're always like, what's my niche? What's my special? What's my something? One of our somethings is that we have really beautiful, deep connection. So when we do talk to someone who's like, oh, we need someone to design this IT thing, or we need people to manage this project, and we have people that have experience in broad areas. I mean, at Cap to Cap this year, we won't call anybody out, but a few healthcare CEOs asked if they could come work for us in retirement. And we're like, hell yeah, that's super cool. Like that sounds great. Come, I want to be a soft landing spot for folks that want to consult in their retirement too. Yeah, it's cool.
Earlier about how some relationships folks that either wouldn't. Did it ever come to a point where you decided like you need to cancel the contract as opposed to just not picking up decision making as part of the organization, so people understand and where
Yeah.
the boundaries are in terms of this is unnecessarily difficult. This is toxic relationships.
This is a really good question. So in government contracting work, you have a certain reputation that if a client cancels a contract on you, it's not great. And if a client cancels a contract on you for cause, it can be the end of your career. So we run this line all the time that if we piss a client off, it could technically possibly be the end of what we do in government service. Like there are 49 other states and there's the federal side, so it's not like it would kill it, right? But it would be detrimental. So in that way, what we do, especially because we put people first, is a constant battle because there are a couple of bodies of work we have that are truly difficult clients. And they are learning and they're going through some stuff and they're going through a lot of leadership change and we're learning how to navigate that to help raise that up. But no, we haven't canceled. We can't. The contract doesn't allow for us to have the power to say bye. Like we actually explored that with one contract all the way through and we cannot. And it is wreaking havoc on our team in a number of unique ways. But it's a life lesson that we're all going through right now.
So in that lesson, does that mean you have to vet the company you're going to do work better, or?
So yes, and I'm not going to say I would say yes, but we have done something, this growth has been explosive in a short period of time, and that's not normal. So where a normal probably trajectory of an organization would be you take these learnings over time and things happen, because when you're in your infancy, you don't get to pick your clients. You know, like when you're really getting started, you just you eat the food, right? And so we definitely went through the phase where we ate the food. And actually, I can think of another client that we have that we said, if you don't change X, this is not a government client, if you don't change X, we won't do this business with you any longer, because the way that this particular thing happened goes totally against our culture, so we won't participate in that way. And they said, okay. Right. So that was cool. Like, that's cool. They liked us enough that they decided they'd raise up to where we wanted to feel good about what was happening. But, you know, when it doesn't happen, Anne has this cool thing that she says is great. Then that's out of the way because there's a better opportunity coming. Yeah. And that has been a really healthy change in my mindset, that the right people come when I wait for them.
And it sounded like you were taking a step back. Am I mistaken? When you're talking about
I wouldn't say a step back. I think it's just the evolution of the role. So we're co-founders. That partnership is what it is and always will be until it's not. And we just now have more, I don't want to say this word out loud. We're an enterprise, not corporate. I feel allergic to corporate, but a more of an enterprise structure, because we need that to nurture the culture and decision making and to keep on pace and that sort of thing in a way that creates formality. And I still participate in all of our senior executive leadership team meetings and am engaged in that way. But as far as reporting structure, I'm a floating box right now.
Talk about the foundation.
What's the foundation?
What's the foundation?
Oh my gosh.
We've always been philanthropic in nature. And so part of my floating boxness is being out to run alongside and work on some projects independently or in parallel. And one of those is putting together a foundation that we can help support our community with. So where our philanthropic dollars will go, with a potential grant making program. We we've been in the trenches, we're still in the trenches, and we really want to find an opportunity to lift up other people that want to start something that can be incredible and be a resource in that way for them. So I am working on building out what that could look like for us.
And so it sounds like you have a philanthropic, I can't even pronounce that, philanthropic budget?
Yeah.
Wait, you.
I can't even pronounce.
I see what you're doing. Tell us more.
But yeah, maybe.
We do. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes. And
Yeah.
we do support causes, and that's just part of our roots. That's part of community. And if you're successful and you're not giving back, you're doing something wrong, in my opinion.
I agree with you on that. Any other questions?
I'm not just saying this because I'm a new employee, but I've known you ladies for many, many, many years in many different capacities. And watching what you've done with Clutch and then going, that aligns with my soul and how I want to contribute into this world and be a part of something bigger than myself has been such a blessing. But for you, watching you from small to really big, really fast, and has the potential to go much bigger. What's the barometer? When you look at how do we keep that Clutch culture and continue to grow, but doing that check-in, what does that look like? I mean, I don't know. You've given yourselves a chance to really know.
For me, it's the people. I need the stories. So in my current role as sitting in the CEO box, I go to new hire orientation. I'm really excited about our next all hands meeting because that's where the live chat gives this really great feedback of like, if it's quiet, something's wrong. If people are engaged or saying positive things, then okay. Or like, I'm a realist. Like, we're not perfect, right? So like, if we're not creating an environment where people can say the things that are issues, then that's a problem. So in fact, one of my mentors told me, your new barometer should be who tells you no. Because when people stop telling you no, you've done something wrong. You've made a space where people can't tell you no anymore. And I have a very strong personality, so that's a good barometer for me. Yeah.
I'll be really honest in feedback. I mean, I've only been on the job technically a week and a half. In this role. And when you're learning the culture of something, it's like drinking through a fire hose of any place you come to, where you're like, oh my God, I've got to learn all this stuff and all the people and all the things.
Yeah.
And somebody asked me recently, they're like, oh my gosh, how's it going? You're at Clutch. And I'm like, dude, I'm at Clutch, but you get thrown in the deep end in certain capacities. And at my last job at a very reputable organization, which you're familiar with, I was given cement boots when I was thrown in the deep end. This job, somebody asked me, I was like, I'm in the deep end, but they gave me an emotional life vest. And that, like, I said it without really thinking about what that meant. And I was kind of reflecting back, and this person came back around and like, what does that mean? And I'm like, I've been able to ask questions openly and seek out people who I was told, before I never had access to certain people in different parts of, I don't know what kind of places you've all worked, but you go to the person that you're supposed to report to, and that's it. You don't get access to everybody else. Here it's like, why don't you call that person? Talk to that person, ping that person. Have a message, like schedule a coffee. I'm like, wait, I get permission to have access to information to make my job easier and this culture better. Like, nobody fucking gives you that opportunity in any job. So I want to applaud you both. I'm not just here to kiss ass. I mean, it always is a bonus, right?
Oh my God, Jared.
But reality is, when you're giving people emotional life vests and not even realizing it, you've done something right. And you've given permission to people below you, who've given permission to the people below them. So that is a huge, huge win just in this short amount of time I've been a part of the culture as well. So thank you. But please keep that in mind if your business is too, if you can give emotional life vests, that's a game changer.
All right, so I'm going to wrap it up. My final question is, where do you see Clutch going?
I mean, how much time do you have?
He said he's wrapping it up.
No, I honestly, like, this is going to sound so cliche, and I apologize in advance, but we want to change the world. Like, we really, truly want to change the way the world looks at employment, the way the world looks at operation improvement, how it deals with change management. We want to make change in entrepreneurship. Like, this was fucking hard. This was so hard. And we did not get the help that we thought we were going to get. Like even from banking spaces. Imagine taking payroll from whatever the hell it is to $1.5 million a month and having the bank that you thought would fix it for you say no. And their next person say no, and the next person say no, and say, cool, we have a shit ton of privilege. Ann and I have a lot of privilege. So what does this mean for other businesses, other entrepreneurs that don't have the same access and the same relationships and the same information that we do? I am appalled. Like last summer, I was so pissed, I could hardly like hold still. Like I was just vibrating, like this is bad. And it's just not. There's a lot of really great ideas out there, and I've now come to a space where I feel like a lot of them fail because we just don't have a good enough support system for the cool shit that can change the world, because everyone's doing stuff that to try and make it better. So let's get the right mentorship, the right support. I mean, still navigating support at the state of California. All of our clients are like, this is amazing. You're our favorite consulting company ever. Crickets. It's everything is hard and everything is messy, and we've made life really complicated by fragmenting out all kinds of services and things. And there's a way to make that better.
Hey, you're just doing a workshop on how to do government contracting? I was thinking that would be something.
I don't even know that we're the right people to do it. I mean, seriously, it is that complicated. Yeah.
All right, well, we'll talk.
Okay.
We're always looking at workshops. So I'm going to wrap it.
We want to go.
We'll come.
We're forever students.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Annual learners.
All right, so I got 5 more minutes left. So this ends our fireside chat. So thank you for coming today. And I'm just going to give, so every week we're going to do something. So next week is going to be Founders Anonymous. It's always on the first Wednesday. It'll be here during lunchtime. And that's where you could come in. If you're a founder, an entrepreneur, you have a business problem, come in and, the community will try to help you. We have a few veteran entrepreneurs that'll be there to guide. In fact, we have really good people here at Granite City, really smart people. And just to toot our horn, we had a gentleman that came in and he had a couple problems. And I talked to him last week and he was like, I felt like I struck gold coming here. So, or if you feel like you're pretty good, come and help others. So February 9th, we have Beer and Geeks. It is just that. It's having beer with geeks. It's just a casual networking. And I think it's going to be here. It'll be here after hours. And then the following day, it's online. But if you're interested in starting a food startup, we're having an online webinar. And on the 18th, our own Sidel will talk about how to get find grants for your startup. And then I think the following week, which is I don't have to look at the date, but it's going to be another. We had so much. It was so popular, our webinar on Chat GPT, that we're having a follow-up session on that. And so we have a few minutes left, so stick around, have more pizza. I think there's more pizza there. Looks like lots of cookies. But stick around, talk to each other, and just be part of the community and help each other out. So thank you for coming.